And in order for our democracy to flourish, civilian policymakers must be able to evaluate commanders, evaluate strategies, and make determinations about what our nation's overall policy should be.
What the Kagans do, actually, is they grade my work on a daily basis. And no, you think I'm joking.
For a career, spent more than 17 months advising U.S. commanders in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I'm here to conduct an assessment for General McChrystal.
And as I stated, you seem to be an apologist rather than someone who's being somewhat honest, because the last question that the Twitter person had posed was the most important one. Thank you, C-SPAN.
Anthony, thanks for the call. And this from Jan, who says, what is our gain if we go into Iraq again? So to both of these points.
On August 8, 2011, the Institute for the Study of War, a think tank in Washington, was founded by a woman named Kimberly Kagan, hosted a dinner for General David Petraeus, who had just returned back to the United States about a month earlier after relinquishing command in Afghanistan. Her husband, Fred, works at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank in...
Well, there's nothing that we can do short of an attack to force Iran to give up its nuclear program.
Both of them went out together to work for General Petraeus for 10 months while he was in charge in Afghanistan.
The fact that I've had the privilege to watch General Petraeus at work day in and day out has been an extraordinary and special occasion.
So usually these think tank experts show up for visits anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks.
It has been amazing to watch him go into a morning meeting and take briefings.
They wound up essentially working as de facto staff officers for General Petraeus. They had desks in his headquarters. They had the highest level security clearances that allowed them to read sensitive intelligence reports and communications intercepts.
And each day then I go back and I watch the secure internet, and here comes the email from the Kagans. And it's always very alarmed. It's always very concerned. And I've always screwed something up and I've been wrong. But seldom do I admit that. But the next morning they will hear me echo what, of course, they suggested. And
because the Kagans didn't really exist in the chain of command, which meant that they could go directly to Petraeus. They didn't have to work through other layers of subordinate staff officers.
There is some suspicion that actually there's a hand up my back that makes my lips talk, and it's operated by one of the Doctors Kagans.
Lawyers are examining the specific arrangement between Petraeus and the Kagans to ensure that it fully complied with those regulations. The extraordinary access that the Kagans had to Petraeus, to the headquarters in Kabul, coming on the heels of the disclosures of what we now know about the relationship that Paula Broadwell, Petraeus' biographer turned lover, also had in Kabul, really raises new questions. While they weren't being paid by the federal government, they did continue to receive their salaries from their respective think tanks.
Through your generosity to ISW.
She was getting a paycheck from the Institute for the Study of War. That paycheck was in part funded by the Institute's donors. Some of those donors who were in attendance at that dinner included defense contractors and others with potential business interests in Afghanistan.